Do you find yourself yearning for a deeper, more purposeful existence? Get ready to embark on a transformative journey, diving deep into the realms of personal development, friendships, romance, and abundance. Get ready for Finding the Fire, Igniting Soul Connection, as we lead the way to embrace the fire within.
So, leaving off on our last episode, it was so much that we offer, right, Holly? There's just so many tools out there, so many amazing modalities that that we can tap into, right?
Yes.
And so one of the more powerful ones, and I will say, when it first came into my awareness, I was like, what? I was like hesitant and pushing it away. But the more I was guided to lean into it for different reasons, it's come to my awareness how powerful it is, and that is ketamine. Ketamine therapy has been it's at the forefront right now for helping with anxiety, depression, PTSD, especially PTSD of our veterans that have gone through so much, and it's just so powerful. It helps with suicidal ideation and addiction, and even bipolar. They have studies on it. It helps rewire neurological pathways, which is super powerful. We're taught we only use 10% of our brain capacity, right? And then if we start having trauma can actually shut down some of those neurological pathways, or old age, or toxins and pollutants, and eating not healthy foods. All these things can shut down your neurons, and you have neurons everywhere, right? Not just in your brain. You have it in your gut, and you're everywhere in your spinal column, and that's just shooting messages throughout your body from your brain to your body. And so ketamine actually helps regenerate these neurons, which we were taught once upon a time was impossible. We're taught once the neurons are dead, there's no getting them back, right? But they're finding with ketamine that you actually can get them back. When ketamine first came to my awareness, I was so judgmental of it, because my history is I'm a nurse. Western medicine, 22 years. Very much in the Western medicine field. So for me to have a 180 and now be holistic plant medicine, I actually the pendulum swung to where, Western medicine, evil, whatever. But now there's a place for all of it, right?
It
complements each other. It's not one or the other. It's both. It's all of it. Mm-hmm. Chinese medicine, Eastern medicine, everything combined has its place. There's not one better than the other. They just have their unique capabilities, right? Western medicine's really great at trauma and life and death situations and surgeries and life-saving things, where Chinese medicine might be more holistic, natural, long-term healing or keeping the body healthy. When ketamine first came into my awareness, I'm like, oh, that's an anesthetic, right? And there's all kinds of stories around that, good and bad and everything in between. And so my mind's no, ketamine, what are these people talking about using it for natural healing? Well, I kept being told to tune in. And it's why am I tuning into this ketamine? And at the time I was married, and my husband had some major addiction issues, really major addiction issues. And so I'm like, oh, well, maybe this could help him. So maybe that's why I'm supposed to tune into it. So I actually went and sat with, a doctor. There was 2 doctors that brought a ketamine clinic here to our area, Southern Utah. And I sat down with one of them and was talking with her and just exploring what is this? What does it do? All these things. And she brought her mother with her, which was awesome. Her mother was a pediatric attending at a hospital in Pennsylvania. And so we had, just with my history, NICU nurse and Western medicine, and it was a really good conversation, and it went all over the place. But I'm like, I don't know why I was supposed to meet with you guys today, but thank you for taking the time. And because I wasn't feeling like it was for my husband or anything, even though I knew that it could be so powerful for him, obviously it would be his choice and whatever, but it wasn't being told that that's what it's for. So I get up to leave, and it's ask them how young they use ketamine. And I was like, okay. So I did. And they said, we've done as young as 12. And as soon as she said that, like, I had tears come to my eyes, and she's like, you have somebody, don't you? I'm like, I had, at the time, 11-year-old that was struggling with wanting to be alive. And I've shared this on previous podcasts, but she has a brother that passed before she was born. Her father took his life when she was not quite 2. And so her concept growing up was she didn't understand life and death. And so if she couldn't see me, she thought I might no longer exist anymore. And so she never wanted to be out of my sight. And it got worse as school started, and, you know, she started calling out sick, and then actually physically being sick, like making herself sick, not having the words behind what she was going through, but feeling like I would die if she couldn't see me. So as time went on, and we're like realizing, like, hey, you have to stay in school. You know, mom has to work at the hospital. Like, she's like, Mom, why can't you stay home with me? I'm like, the babies at the hospital need me. She's like, Mom, I need you. And, you know, she didn't have the words, right? She didn't have the words for what she was really feeling. So she got to a point of not wanting to be alive and not really knowing what the consequence of that was, right? So she got to a point where she was trying to take her life at a very young age. And once we tuned into that, of course, we got her in counseling and all the different supports we could do that way. But they have their limits, right? So when I asked this doctor about the age that they use ketamine, and she said 12, and my daughter was 11, and she's like, let's meet her and see if we can help her. And so I'm like, it has to be her choice. She has to, you know. And I went home to tell her about it before I could even finish telling her about it. She's like, Mom, when can we do it? And I'm like, okay, well, let's, you know. So she sat with ketamine, and it gave her back her will to live. And we had, for 3 years at that point, been trying everything, every kind of therapy, every kind of, like, I quit work at that point. I quit working at the hospital to be home with her so she could be my shadow. I took her out of school. She was homeschooling. Like, we're doing everything we could to, like, try and help her. And this ketamine really was a good, powerful tool to help her reconnect and want to live again. And so after that, I mean, it was a couple years more, but it just kept coming back into my awareness. And now it's more known. It's more out there. There's ketamine clinics popping up all over. Even in our town, we have quite a few.
Even just the word ketamine, like, it's really coming to people's awareness.
Yeah. And they're utilizing it in such beautiful ways, right? They're doing it with breath work. They're doing it with in, like, group settings to help people heal their traumas, release their traumas, and heal. But what I find is so powerful is the integration piece with it, because, you know, ketamine is a powerful tool and medication. And, you know, a lot of them, like, if you go into a clinical setting, you can have IV ketamine, and you have a practitioner there at your side, like, monitoring your vitals and all that. And that can be very powerful. And just my experience through my daughter and through myself, I've experienced all of it, right? I've experienced the IV ketamine, the oral ketamine, breathwork ketamine. But what she and I both find key is the integration piece, and like, having somebody walk you through that. Because you can just get ketamine and you can, you know, have this beautiful, blissful experience and feel great. But if you're still holding on to those emotions and not letting those go and not really understanding, like, you're going to need your next dose of ketamine. And then it almost becomes like an addiction and a next hit. It's like, oh, it's helpful and I can go here and get it. But I'm actually not really releasing the reason I'm here. So so all of it together is super powerful, the integration piece and guiding them through the process too.
And that's where you really come into play with too, is where you're able to really tune in to help people through that integration. Because I think a lot of people don't know how to do that on their own, right? Wouldn't you say? Absolutely.
And that's the thing, especially if you know, like a veteran that's been through some trauma. Like, I have a cousin who's seen some stuff. He's been in some dark places and had to hold, his men as they were passing. And so the last couple of years I traveled around the country, and I went and visited him, and he invited me into his home and showed off this counter space that was full of prescription pills, and he laughed about it. And he's like, yeah, that's what gets me through. I need something to help me sleep. I need something for anxiety. I need this. I need that. I have all this pain from all of this. And he's like, that's how I survive. And I had mentioned, I don't even know how, but we started talking about ketamine. And so he's like, I want to try that. So in the meantime, he's sat with ketamine, and it has shifted things for him, like, deeply. And another cousin of mine, she was in her 20s. She was also struggling with suicide, not wanting to be here. And so she, after I visited her across the country and talked to her about it, she went and sat with ketamine a few times, but she didn't have the integration. She just went in and had, so she was having some that were helpful and some that weren't helpful, and, kind of all over the board experiences with it. But, after, talking to her about the integration piece and, like, really diving in, like, that's what's important, because, again, it can be helpful or it can just be a Band-Aid, but the integration and diving in and, like, okay, what are you holding on to? What do you need to release? And then after you release it, now what? Because your identity is tied to this thing. And now that you've let it go, like, what do you want to bring in? Because if you don't bring in something new, then you're going to pull back that memory.
Right.
So that's super powerful with any tool, right? But ketamine is so powerful in that way. And that's just such I've seen such beautiful transformations in people, including my daughter, including family members, and clients, and in all kinds of ways, with suicide, with pain, with rewiring neurons, with all kinds of things. And it's such a beautiful experience when used in the right way. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And one of the really cool things that I guess, I don't think I mentioned it, but, like, breath work, that's one of the tools too that we use at, like, our retreats or whenever it calls in. It's breath work, because breath is life, right? And learning how to breathe. And when we're in trauma or fight or flight, we only breathe down to, like, our throat. Like, we cut our breath off at our throat. We don't fully take a deep breath and expand our diaphragm and, like, open up all those spaces.
Most of us don't really even know how to breathe properly at all, right? Like, we just don't.
Yeah, we just don't. Like, we've forgotten over the years and over the time and over the, like, and when we're in pain, what's the first thing you do?
We
hold your breath.
You
tense up and you hold your breath and you don't breathe, and or if you're nervous, you don't breathe. And if it's like you can just breathe, oh, okay, I'm okay. Like, I can get through this, like, just breathe. And so that's one of the big things that I remind clients a lot. We remind clients a lot, especially if we're going through, like, these deep healings, right? Breathe.
There's
breathe.
so
okay.
much power in, like, the breath. Yeah, the breath work and breath and breathing and, like, releasing through the breath.
Yeah. And, like, the ice baths, right? Like, when the men were, like, all tensed up and, like, clamped down and, like, even yelling, I'm like, breathe.
And the minute they relaxed, and then they relaxed in.
Yeah. And once you breathe and relax in, it's like, oh, I can be here all day. Do I have to get out? Is my time up? I want to stay in here, But yeah, incorporating these tools together is so beautiful, and that's one that I've loved too, is the breath work with the ketamine, because that can really relax you and get you into,
like, they work so well together,
hand in hand. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And an experience I went through recently, I actually had a family member in the hospital, and it was very traumatizing. And my body was just hurting. My body was hurting so bad. And I left the hospital for a minute, and I'm like, I need to go back to the hospital, but I'm hurting. So I stopped at Target, grabbed some ibuprofen, and I'm walking out of Target with ibuprofen, which I don't really take that stuff very often. So I'm walking out with ibuprofen, and I'm like, body, why are you hurting? And it's like tears came to my eyes, like, because you need to cry. Like, I need to cry right now, but I wasn't allowing myself to, because I need to be strong for my family member that's in the hospital. And I've been in that situation many times over my life, right? I've had many family members in the hospital, and I'm just the strong one, and I just show up, you know, and I hold all that emotion in, and the fallout after is not fun. But in that very moment, in the moment, it's like, oh, breathe. Why are you hurting? You need to cry. Okay. I can't cry right now because I have to drive back to the hospital, but I need to allow myself that. So that day, thankfully, my oldest daughter is so beautiful. She has trained in breath work too, and she was holding a breath work that evening, which initially I was going to attend, but with having family in the hospital, I wasn't going to go. But I went back to the hospital, saw that this family member was doing well. They had another family member there with them. I'm like, you know what? I need to take time for myself for a minute. If you guys are doing okay, is it okay if I leave for a minute and just go reground in and regroup? And they're like, yeah, go. So I went for a drive, which in the past has been very helpful. Like, just go for a long drive, maybe some music, maybe not, just kind of zone out on a road that I don't have to like do traffic, right? And that has been something I utilized in my past a lot, and it just wasn't working for me. And I'm just like still my brain is not calming down. Like, I'm just like erratically driving all over town. You know, I'm like, what am I doing? Where am I going? What do I need? And my daughter called me and she's like, Mom, are you going to come to breath work? And I'm like, no, immediately, you know, because like past situation, same situation, a past self would not have given myself time and permission for what I needed. And so my initial response was no. And then I hung up the phone. I'm like, wait a minute, that's exactly what I need right now. Like, I'm trying to find balance. I'm trying to ground. I'm trying to allow myself time or space to release this emotion. And breath work is the perfect opportunity for that. It opens that up for you to allow that emotion to come out in a safe container. So it's not maybe safe when I need to have my wits about me when I'm driving, or I need to be strong for the family member that's in the hospital, or it might not be the right space, but if I can give myself that space. So I did. I went to that breath work and just allowed myself to fully release and surrender into it. And there's an opportunity, and there's all kinds of breath work out there. There's a lot, but the type that we really tune into is somatic breath work, which really like gets into your body, into your cells, allows all of that energy to come forward. And we hold a space during the session where you can release that trapped emotion, whatever it is. If it's a yell, if it's anger, if it's sadness, if it's laughter even. That's some of the fun stuff, right? Yeah. When somebody's actually laughing through the pain, and somebody over here is crying and somebody over here is laughing, and then suddenly the person crying hears a person laughing. It might trigger them for a minute, but then they're like, oh, wait. And they start laughing because you can actually laugh and release through tears, you know, all of it. You can do all of it. So in that moment, in that breath work, like, they held the space to like yell or release, and I just let all that emotion out. Like, and it wasn't actually tears, and I thought it would be, but I'm like, just like a verbal, like, like just from the depths of my soul, just let it out, you know? And at the end of the session, I just like felt amazing. Like, I had the best massage of my life, the best release of my life. I just felt so relaxed, like the most relaxed state you can imagine. And you know, but if anybody knew like what was happening at that moment, you would not picture me being able to relax with what was going on. And so when I got back to the hospital, even the family members like, you look really relaxed. I'm like, I am, and I feel amazing. So to go, you know, to allow myself that time to process and release is so important and so powerful. And just not even so many years ago, I was in a very similar situation with a different family member, and I didn't allow myself to leave. I didn't leave the hospital one time. I didn't allow myself to feel anything. My whole body shut down. I was exhausted. My feet and ankles were like so swollen, like, and I'm like, oh wow, like look at the transformation in such a short time of just tuning in and checking in with me. Like, of course I need to know that this person's safe and they're taken care of, but as soon as the immediate danger or fight or flight situation is taken care of, then I need to check in with me so then I can be the best me to move forward. And so yeah, breath work is super amazing, and just to release all of that emotion so you can show up for yourself the best way possible, and for family members and friends, you know. Yeah. So, and just incorporating some of these tools that out of our toolbox and putting them together at times is so beautiful. And just also tuning in with, you know, whatever situation we're in the moment, like, you know, that moment I was in a stressful situation, I needed to tune in with myself and do breath work with myself. But like, say you're at a retreat and you're doing a group breath work is so powerful too, to hold that space for each other. And if somebody's crying over there and it's like, oh, like I can hold space for that person crying, and I can allow that person to cry or yell, and them being witnessed in that helps them powerfully shift too, right? Like we've seen some
powerful healing happens in groups.
Groups is so powerful. Like, remember our one men's group session, the breath work?
Yes.
That was awesome. There was yelling and crying and screaming and laughing all at once.
So
and it
that was so cool to see, like, all the emotions. I love it. Like, they went through the pain sometimes at times too, but like the laughter made everything, like, it lightened everything up.
Yes.
It made it so everything wasn't so heavy.
Yeah.
Like, healing doesn't have to be quite so heavy.
No. But we do have to reveal it and feel it, but we can shift it as fast as we want to.
So it is, I mean, there is heaviness that literally can leave the body, but we don't have to stay in it.
Right.
And it's cool to see when,
Yeah. And that's the really cool thing too. And the thing, like, over time, learning, like with breath work, assisting people through those emotions, but don't let them sit in there. Like, allow them to feel it, guide them through it, help them yell louder if they need to yell, help them cry if they need to cry, but also, okay, now it's time to shift. Like, we're not going to stay in this, but those are powerful tools and lessons for all of life, right? So you can take those and utilize them in your everyday.
Yeah. So do you have a way for people to contact you about ketamine?
Yeah. So on my website, findingthefire.com, you can reach out to me and learn more about ketamine. I do offer one-on-one as well as group sessions and also a series of sessions. Because one treatment can be powerful, but if you can do a series of 3, it's life-changing too. So yeah, findingthefire.com, you can connect with me and find some more information there. And then also, like, when we host events and stuff, those will be listed on our group. Oh, on our Facebook group. What's the name of our Facebook group? It's right here. Igniting Soul Connection. It's right there. Thank you. Igniting Soul Connection. So our Facebook group will have all of this information. We're going to be uploading all these podcasts to that. Our website information will be there. And in any offerings that we have, if I have one-on-one offerings, if you have one-on-one offerings, at times we have group sessions, day retreats, weekend retreats, men's retreats, couples retreats, women's retreats, like whatever calls in at the time, like all that information you can find on that Facebook page, Igniting Soul Connection. So, but yeah, if you are looking for some one-on-one work with either Holly or I, you can find us on our websites and say the name of your website again.
Releaseandheal.org.
Okay. Yeah. And, you know, sometimes, like, we aren't the right fit for somebody, or even if we offer the same tools, like, we have a network of people that are in this field that will be like, you know, I really feel like you could connect with so-and-so right now on this subject or something. So we're not tied to, like, you have to work with us at all.
There's so many good people out there, and it's about finding the right fit for you in that moment.
Yeah, and if you feel connected to one of us, or if you just are looking for some other help, like, there's other resources out there that we can guide you to. Other people out there in our community. Our community is amazing here in Southern Utah.
There's so many people out there
that
are very well educated and have a lot of knowledge to help people.
Absolutely, we're blessed to be here, and I'm happy to be here and be part of it. And so what do we have coming up? Do we have anything coming up right now?
We don't at the moment, I don't think. But
I think there's some things we're tuning into, but there's nothing really. Oh no, you have a women's retreat in Bryan Head.
Yes. Okay, that's October, first weekend of October. Yes.
Talk about that a little bit. We have 40 seconds. Where can they find out about that?
On my Facebook page. I'm trying to think.
What's the name of your Facebook page?
Just
We can put it in.
Holly Van Gilder, just my name under Holly Van Gilder.
Okay.
That retreat is up in Bryan Head. It's for women 18 and older. It's all about, again, connection and just about living in the moment, enjoying yourself, being in the moment. There's 3 of us that will be putting it on.
It'll be beautiful. I've been to one.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
It'll be a great experience if you're feeling that call to just like you need a recharge, you need connection, a beautiful atmosphere.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us on this path of self-discovery and soul connection. Remember, the journey doesn't end here. For more inspiration and resources, join our Facebook group, Igniting Soul Connection. Also, visit us at findingthefire.com or follow us on TikTok and Instagram at Finding the Fire. Until next time, keep the fire alive. This has been a production from a podcast studio.